So, today we're going to talk about shape. I have a couple examples to show you. Some helpful things to have to do this class would be a piece of paper to glue everything on, and then some colored paper. If you don't have construction paper, you can use wrapping paper or magazine cutouts. Just try to find some solid areas so we don't get confused by the patterns. Also, scissors would be good. Glue stick, tape if you don't have glue, and a pencil. And possibly something to trace that's round. I have both this can and then a smaller one. I have a nickel for a small circle and a ruler. So those are all the tools. I'm going to put them right here so you can see them. Kind of. So today, we are going to make a composition completely out of geometric shapes. So this is a little example. This is very simple, just geometric shapes. Some flowers. I didn't have my fancy paper when I made this, so I used some color envelopes, which worked well. And then I went and got some paper from my studio, so this one's nice and bright so you can see it, and I added some amorphic shapes. Now what's that? A geometric shape is going to be like your circle, your square, your triangle. It comes from math. An amorphic shape is also known as an organic shape, and it's something that's not defined. So you can think about it more natural shapes. And then the challenge I'm going to issue you at the end of the class is to draw either a still life, or this is a picture out my window, a landscape, and just break it down into shapes. Okay. So, some artists that use shapes in their work. We're going to go back to Wayne Thiebaud here. I really like him, but last week we looked at his still lifes. This week we're going to look at his landscapes because he uses this idea of breaking down a picture into shapes so he can understand it. See how he's got the oval, and all those fields are broken down into rectangles and squares and triangles. We got that. Another American artist, Georgia O'Keeffe. She's really known for her flowers and desert paintings, but I really love her cityscapes. And you see here, she really uses the shapes idea again with the rectangle and a lot of little rectangles to build up this composition. And then very, very famous artist Picasso uses as well. This is a small drawing, but I really like it. It's kind of an abstract idea. It's 3 musicians, so it's all built up. This whole composition is built by different shapes. Okay. And then we have French artist Matisse. He's one of my favorites. And this is a really good example of breaking up a space into shapes. This piece is called the Piano Lesson. So as you can see, it has the triangles and the rectangles all throughout the piece to put together the composition. That's how he's understanding the space. It's through those geometric shapes. And then the other piece I marked is kind of like what we're doing. We're going to use paper. So he used this a lot. He painted paper with gouache and cut it out so you wouldn't be distracted by everything like the texture, and you would just see the shapes and the color to make this composition. Okay. And then the last artist we're going to look at today is Klee. He is a Swiss artist. This is where I got the idea of breaking down your landscape into shapes, geometric shapes. I really like this. This is a painting he did of his friend's backyard. And you can see he broke it down into rectangles and squares and triangles. Or we got a more abstract version of a window. And he's just building the whole composition with squares and rectangles. Okay. So those are some artists. I'll post them on my post after the class so you can look them up, because I found so many cool artists that I wanted to share with you guys that use shape in their artwork, but I didn't want to take up all your time. Okay, so we're going to make ourselves a little geometric composition of flowers in a vase. My mom is always asking me to draw her flowers. So since Mother's Day is coming up, just think we could all make this together, and then you already have your Mother's Day card ready. So I pre-cut a bunch of things so I wouldn't be taking a bunch of time cutting, but I will give you some tips on how to measure and cut as we go. So, we're going to start with our piece of paper here. And you can build shapes by both cutting out a triangle or a square on a piece of paper and gluing it on, or when you're drawing, or you can also have the areas be shapes that are left blank. So, I mean, this is covered, but behind here we have the big square, and that's just left blank. That's creating that shape. Okay. So, first I'm going to start with my table, so my vase has something to start on. So I've cut out this rectangle here. I'm going to put it here, but in case you want to measure this perfectly yourself, a good trick, you could just take a piece of paper and line it up where you want it to go and fold. Fold along the edge to measure it. And if you don't have scissors, you can just put a good crease in it, flick it across, and then fold it on the other side and do a really good crease with your fingernails. And then you'll have a piece that's the same size as that, and I want it to be a little bit shorter, so I will fold it to the height I want it to be. And again, I'm just putting a crease in it with my fingernails. Over here. Okay. So that's a little trick of using your base piece of paper to measure all the pieces you want to put on there. But my mom likes yellow and blue, so I'm going to start with the yellow for my table. So I'll put it right there. Glue stick here. Put that on. Okay. Now, I want my table to be a little bit more interesting, so I'm going to put like a tablecloth piece on there. So I've cut out this triangle here to put there. And again, if you wanted to use your paper, if you had full sheets of paper, you could just measure it like this and fold where the bottom edge is, and then follow those steps of flicking and folding and tearing to get it to fit perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to put in my little tablecloth square. And, you know, your artwork should look like your artwork. It doesn't need to look like mine at all. This was just a simple composition I came up with so we could easily demonstrate how you can break up a composition just into shapes and have it come together as a whole. want this to be a little bit lower. Okay. Next, I'm going to put in my window. So I pre-cut a square, but I want my window to have a window pane. So I'm going to use the negative space back here to show through to make a window pane. So I want my window to be divided in 4. So I'm going to fold this piece of paper that I had already cut into a square into half one way, and then into half the other way. So now I could have just 2 panes like this, but I'm going to fold it each piece in half again so I can have 4 little squares. You can of course cut if you prefer cutting with the scissors. I like the soft edge that tearing gives me. Now when we think about our composition, you could put your window right in the middle. That seems a little bit boring to me. But if that's what you like, then you should do that. I'm going to put mine a little bit off center. So I'll start, let's see, I want to have this part touching the top, so I'll start with the top. I got 1 panel. Whoa. There we go. And then another panel here. There we go. Now, if you don't want it to be a perfect square, you could always bring it off of the paper and fold this piece of paper onto the back if you wanted a straight edge all along the outside. Or if you like, you could just have it hanging off. But now you can get an idea that the shapes aren't only the ones I've glued on, but there's also the negative space here, the empty space of the back page that's helping create the cross shape of the window panes. Okay, next we're going to put on a vase. I pre-cut out a circle and a triangle put together, but your vase could be whatever shape you want. You could put a rectangle down. You could just have a circle, but I liked circle. So I'm going to put in my vase first. Let's see. That looks like a good area. That's the base of my vase. Now, if you wanted, at this point, you could cut out little stems to put in, so they'd be hidden behind the other part of your vase, or you can just glue stuff down lightly, and if you want to move it around before it dries, you can do that too. So I got my triangle. I'm going to put this as the mouth of the vase there. Okay, next I'm going to put in my flowers. I've cut some triangles already, but just to show you a little trick, if you want all your petals to be the same size, you can cut a strip of paper and then fold it like so. And then when you cut it, just remember to hold on tight first of all. And just remember to cut the folded edges. So now I have a bunch of triangles that are all the same size. Now your flowers, in my example I had all the triangles going with the points going in, but you could make your flowers however you want. You could have the points going out. You could also have little rectangles or triangles and rectangles together. Really, you could have circles. The sky's the limit. This is just to give you an idea. So I'm going to start with my little purple flowers. And let's see. I'm just going to start them going around in a circle. Now, if you want, you can pre-sketch out the composition you want, so it might be easier to follow, or a lot of times I cut all my shapes first, all my pieces of paper first, and I place them down where I want them before I glue them, just so I can move around the composition. But for this exercise, I did some little sketches to break up this into shapes. And then if you remember when we were talking about color and composition, the brighter and darker colors are going to look like they're coming forward, and lighter and muddier colors are going to look like they're in the background. And another way to create space in your picture in this two-dimensional plane and make it seem like it's three-dimensional is to overlap. As you can see, the vase is overlapping the window. The vase is overlapping the table, so it looks like it's on top of there, it's on top of the table, and it looks like it's in front of the window. So here, we got one flower. I went stemless, but it's up to you. And like I said, you can always put in your flower first and then carefully peel up areas if you want to put in your stem later, or you can just have your blossoms like I'm doing. Okay. And I'm trying to pay attention to if you guys are saying anything. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them. Again, I am recording this video on my GoPro, so it will be available if you aren't going as fast as I am, because I cheated and pre-cut things. It's not really cheating. It's being very prepared, so I'm not wasting your time. But you can always go to my YouTube channel, Anastasia Solinsky, and references any of the videos I've done on these Fridays. In case you think it's really fun and you want to share it with your friends as a fun art project to do. Because again, Mother's Day is coming up. And who doesn't like flowers? You know what? And if you don't, have a mom, or you can always just give your beautiful picture of flowers to somebody else that you love. Sure, they would appreciate it. Okay. And these little circles, I just traced a nickel, but you could trace the cap of your glue stick if you have it, or you can draw a freeform circle. I don't trust my circles, so I traced one. Okay. So I have two little flowers. Now I'm going to do one big red one. And I'm being kind of boring and making all my flowers the same. But like I said, you could have them go, maybe we'll just do this one out one. We'll do this one out. Well, this one be triangles out. But if you look at pictures of flowers, you could just look at them and figure out how you could break them up into shapes. Because really, if you just squint your eyes and look at stuff, you can break things down into geometric shapes, and it doesn't seem so overwhelming then when you're trying to draw a landscape or a still life, if you just kind of blur your vision and see everything as areas of color and shape. My fingers are getting a little bit sticky. Okay, and I'm going to have one petal going off, and so I'll show you what I was talking about. If you wanted to, you could either leave this going off the page, or blow. Or you can fold it over the back. Let's see. Okay, so there's my little flowers. I don't really like the way the wet ribbon looks, so I'm going to add another petal here. And remember, don't get frustrated. Sometimes when I get really frustrated with a piece, I just take a break, and then I'll look at it later and be like, oh, that's not too bad, actually. It looks pretty good. So don't get frustrated and destroyed. If you get that frustrated, just go take a break. Take some deep breaths, which we forgot to do this time. Oh my goodness. Okay. So that's just quickly my little composition of vase and flowers on a table that has a window behind it out of geometric shapes. So obviously your first challenge would be to finish your vase using your geometric forms. You could also add some amorphic or organic forms and add some leaves. This one, I have one of the flowers has lost its petal. It's very sad. So this is challenge number 1, to finish your flower and vases with your geometric shapes. Maybe add some amorphic shapes. And remember to please tag me in your creation so I can see your beautiful artwork. Okay, and then the challenge number 2 is to either set up a still life or look out your window, or if you have a backyard, sit in your backyard and see if you can do a landscape drawing or a still life by just looking at all the shapes and breaking up your trees, your stop sign, the buildings into geometric shapes. I didn't color this one, but I might. So you could do just a line drawing like this, or you can do big blocks of color. Okay, so hopefully that helped. Again, this is a tool I use a lot in my own artwork to understand space and how objects relate to each other, is just squinting my eyes and trying to see everything as simple shapes instead of cars and stop signs and trees and fields. I'm just turn everything into a simple shape. Okay, again, if you can, please donate. I have Anastasia Zelinsky at Venmo or Tasha8 at Hotmail for my PayPal. I will post a little clip with the artists we talked about today, so you can Google them because they're super cool. And I will post Again, the Venmo information, in case you can donate it, I would appreciate it. Okay, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful day. Again, please tag me in your artwork. Even if you don't think it's great, it's gonna make my day no matter what. I am so excited when you share your artwork, okay? So thank you so much for making art with me today, and I will see you guys next Friday. Bye!